So what would that make his daughter to him? This is where it gets weird.
Wait, what did you say?
Okay, Herod steals his brother's wife. She has a daughter. What is the relationship between...
His niece.
It's his niece and his stepdaughter.
That's disgusting.
It's like I'm my own grandpa stuff going on here. Welcome to another study of the life of Christ. Today we are looking at a time in Jesus' life when he grieved, when he heard some bad and sad news, and what he did after that. Today's story, yes, is in all four Gospels. Well, part of it is. So the harmony is super helpful. We have a new thing today. We have Mike the monkey. And he has a mic on him so that when you guys are reading Bible stories, it comes through the video, because otherwise it's just like a long time of silence. So if you're reading, Jessica will toss you Mike the monkey.
Really?
All right, so we are in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Jesus is 32 years old. We are in the last year of Jesus' life on earth. And we have two locations. I didn't get any flannel graphs out. I should have got a Herod flannel graph.
I will look.
We have Herod in Jerusalem with John the Baptist, and then we have Jesus in the wilderness near Bethsaida, which is on the map. So Bethsaida is on the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee, but they are kind of out in the wilderness there. So, who thinks they know what's going to happen to John the Baptist today? He's going to die. Yes. It's interesting where this is placed in the timeline because it kind of shows up in a different spot, but this is, I think, the best place to put it because we have Jesus' reaction to it in real time. But part of the story is kind of like gives you some backstory, so it's just kind of confusing as far as timeline goes. But open up to Matthew 14, I think we'll use mostly, or in your harmony here at the bottom of page 100, you see it. So it starts off, at that time Herod the Tetrarch heard reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work within him." So you read that and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why would he think that Jesus is John the Baptist? We haven't even heard that John the Baptist died yet. So that's why the timeline kind of seems funny. Because now we go back in time, sort of, from Herod's perspective to the story of Herod and John the Baptist. So, when Herod hears about Jesus, it's after the events of today's story where John the Baptist is killed. Because he's like, he kind of, if you killed somebody who's like a powerful prophet, or you killed like a witch or a warlock or something, you're like scared because he's like, well, his powers, like he could come back from the dead or something. So that's kind of what's happening with Herod, is he's kind of superstitiously afraid because he killed this prophet. And then he hears about this other prophet. I guess he hadn't heard about Jesus yet, which is kind of surprising. But anyway, he hears about them. If you remember to Jesus' crucifixion, Pilate sends Jesus to Herod, and he wants him to do magic tricks for him, and Jesus won't say anything to him. Miracles. But he's like, ooh, magic tricks, from Herod's perspective, right? And so this would have probably been the first time they met then, because Herod was interested in him, but we hear that Herod heard about Jesus and was interested, but thought that he was John the Baptist raised from the dead. So in order to answer that question, we go back in time. So we're Matthew 14:3. Who wants to read that and get Mike the monkey?
Also, I found a king. It's probably not Herod, but we're just going to roll with that.
Asher, could you read Matthew 14:3 to 5?
Okay. Hello, Mike. Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias? I don't know.
Herodias.
I was close-ish.
You were.
His brother Philip's wife, for John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet.
So, John the Baptist had spoken against Herod, who was the king, who was kind of a Jew. He had converted to Judaism, kind of half Jew, but was in with the Romans, a royal family, kind of a special family, and been put there as like a puppet king. Like, oh, you're kind of Jewish, you go be king over here, and gave him some power and gave some authority. So the Jewish people didn't really like Herod. They thought he was like a half-breed Jew, kind of a fake Jew, and kind of a puppet king. But he was also, it was a really messed up family. So if you remember back to Herod the Great, which was the Herod of Jesus' birth, right? The one the wise men visited and who killed all the babies in Bethlehem. So Herod the Great, what happened in the Christmas story when Jesus and Joseph and Mary come back from Egypt, they find out something changed, right? What changed? Herod the Great died, okay? So Herod the Great is dead, and if you remember back to that story even, Joseph considers going back to Bethlehem near Jerusalem, but decides to go back to Nazareth because he's afraid of the Herod there, which would have been this Herod, I think. Yes. So Herod the Tetrarch. There's 3 Herods. There's like, after Herod the Great died, his 3 sons kind of divided up the kingdom and became the 3 kings. So there's Herod the Tetrarch, Antipas, and Stephen, I think. I should have looked this up better. No? Stephen? It's not? Okay, there's 3 Herods. Okay, I won't get into the weeds on the details. What happened here is Herod the Tetrarch, the one who's in Jerusalem, okay, married his brother's wife. Okay, so I don't know what exactly the circumstances of that were. What? Archelaus. Thank you. I don't know the circumstances, but you shouldn't steal your brother's wife. That's probably a bad idea for a lot of reasons. So John saw this as sinful. This is not lawful. You shouldn't have taken your... Oh, Philip. That's right. It's right here. I don't know which one Philip is. Not. What did I say? Stephen. His brother Philip's wife. For John... So some of them are titles, some of them are their names. So that's why it's confusing. But anyway, his brother Philip's wife, for John had been saying to him, it's not lawful for you to have her. So he steals his other brother, who's a king in a different area's wife. I don't know why.
I believe she wants power too.
Oh, maybe she was
because
involved.
The way
she wants power.
John the Baptist and her daughter dancing, she's a nasty lady.
So
I'm just telling you.
Herod does this, steals his brother's wife. This is wrong, this is sinful and unlawful, probably illegal, but he's a king, so he does whatever he wants. John speaks against this. It makes Herod mad. It also makes Herod's new wife mad. So now we fast forward to Herod's birthday. Faith, it's almost your birthday, right? You should not have a party like this. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias,
Jerusalem, can I put him on
they're in Jerusalem, yes. The daughter of Herodias, so his brother's wife, now his wife. So what would that make his daughter to him? This is where it gets weird.
Wait, what did you say?
Okay, Herod steals his brother's wife. She has a daughter. What is the relationship between...
His niece.
It's his niece and his stepdaughter.
That's disgusting.
It's like I'm my own grandpa stuff going on here. His stepdaughter / niece dances for them. Now, without going into so much graphic details, this dance was probably not very wholesome. Because it pleased Herod so much. Why would you
watch? It wasn't like line dancing, okay?
So he had a big party, his daughter, everyone was impressed.
Or the Macarena.
So he liked this dance so much, he promised with an oath to give her whatever he asked. Whatever she asked.
This is why I think the wife is nasty. Because she would, if she like loved her daughter, she would protect her. But they are social climbing. Okay, they're just nasty people.
More details. Mark has a little more details. The king said to the girl, ask me for anything you want and I'll give it to you. And he promised her with an oath, whatever you ask, I will give you up to half my kingdom. Okay, so this is a big gift. He's like, he was probably also drunk.
Yeah.
Right? You make stupid decisions when you're drunk.
Half your kingdom because someone's cute.
You promise half your kingdom. Okay, so this is all crazy. So she is a young girl. She's like, I don't know, what should I do? She goes to her mom. I'm in Mark now because it has more details. She went to her mother and said, what should I ask for? The head of John the Baptist, she answered. At once, the girl hurried in to the king with the request, I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptist on a platter. So this has become a common cultural phrase. It's like delivered on a silver platter. Who's ever heard that phrase before? Like if you want something delivered to you, like in a fancy way, it refers to this story. This is the origin. John the Baptist's head on a silver platter. It's like such a weird thing. Like why would a young girl want a head of a guy? Like this is motivated by the mother. She's mad because he's spoken against their marriage, right? So Herod also wanted him dead, but he hadn't killed him. Why?
Because he's scared.
He's scared because he's a prophet and because of the people and the influence, right? So the king is distressed, it says, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he did not want to refuse her, so he immediately sent an executioner with orders to bring John's head. So they cut off his head and bring it. The man went, beheaded him in prison, brought back the head on a platter. He presented it to the girl, and she gave it to her mother, which again indicates like this is what the mother really wanted. She didn't care. On hearing this, John's disciples came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. Okay, so this is an awful end for John the Baptist, who was an amazing guy. And we talked about John the Baptist a little bit a couple weeks ago, right? Because we saw some doubts from John the Baptist. We saw that it's, even Jesus kind of received his doubts, didn't like say, what? Why are you doubting, John the Baptist? He answered him, and then he talked about how great John the Baptist was. So very gracious to John the Baptist's doubts. Jesus says there's no one greater born among women than John the Baptist. So John the Baptist is really one of the greatest guys who ever lived, following up Jesus. And so this is a sad end. We saw John the Baptist do an amazing job transitioning his fame and kind of his ministry over to Jesus, and saw his role really well as preparing the way. And then he steps aside, he gets put in prison. He wonders, like, he even has some doubts, which shows it's okay to have doubts and work through them, and God is comfortable with our doubts and showing us the answers and helping us through our doubts. But this is his end. We did talk a little bit about, too, like if he had been on the scene, it may have been confusing. So this is also God's way of transitioning him out. But regardless, it's very sad. So now we're on page 103 in the Harmony. Could someone read Mark 6:30 for us? And Mike the Monkey will join you. All right. I don't know if Kai or Hunter had us. Okay. We'll let Hunter read something next. Mark 6:30.
The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught.
Okay, so we're change of scenes. Now we're up in Galilee. What happened last time in our last study with the disciples? What did Jesus do with them?
Sent them.
Yes, thank you, Ben. He sent them 2 by 2. No, not the king. The king didn't move up there. He's still drunk from his party.
So the disciples.
The disciples and Jesus are up in Galilee.
There he goes.
There, he just fell over. Oh, no. Okay, Jesus and the disciples. Yes, Ben, Jesus had just sent them out 2 by 2 all around Galilee region, and now they've come back. So when you come back from a trip, what do you talk about?
Your trip.
Your trip. Everything cool that happened on your trip, right? So they had 6 different trips, and so they're reporting to Jesus, telling him everything that happened. Now, so the disciples and Jesus are back together. At this time, we talked a little bit about Jesus' doing. He was probably he was still going from town to town speaking. And actually what's coming up later is he's going to send a group of 70. So he was probably with his other disciples, not the 12, training them as well. So he wasn't just sitting around. But what happens, where is it? When Jesus heard what had happened, there's somewhere that says it's back in Matthew. It says the disciples went and told Jesus, okay? So the disciples of John, went and told Jesus what had happened to John. So continuing in Matthew, it says when Jesus heard what had happened, so what happened? What happened? The death of John. He withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. So Jesus is with his disciples. So we're trying to get a good timeline here. We're using multiple gospels. You see all this going on. Now flip the page to 104, and you're going to see a treat. You're going to see all 4 Gospels lined up, because now we're to have part of the story that is recorded in all 4 Gospels, which is cool to see. And they're obviously slightly different, a lot the same. But Jesus has now heard the sad news that John the Baptist is dead. What do you think his reaction to that was? Sadness? He'd cry. We know that Jesus has wept when he heard about Lazarus dying. That's recorded. So did Jesus cry? Yes. What else do you think he experienced? What? Maybe he prayed. Yeah. Yeah, I think Jesus was probably grieved by this, and his reaction is wanting to be alone. And so he wants to step away from all the ministry and all the speaking and all the people, and he wants to be alone. So he withdraws by boat privately. There's a bunch of private, solitary place. So Jesus wants to be alone. Yes?
I don't know if you meant that word. The disciples have returned with satire?
No.
I know. I was like, I don't see any satire.
I thought that was stories.
Stories.
Okay, great. I was like, this doesn't sound right.
They returned with stories. So the disciples returned with stories of their mission trip. So that would have been a really exciting moment, followed by a really sad moment. So we go from like Jesus has just sent out his disciples. They're coming back. We cast out demons. We healed people. We preached. We found like this happened. Like that would have like been an exciting, like an encouraging time. And then immediately it seems that the disciples of John come and tell him that John the Baptist is dead. So I think a really big swing of emotions would have happened here for Jesus, from one of the highest highs to one of the lowest lows of hearing about John the Baptist. So he wants to be alone.
Do you think part of him might have rejoiced that John was reunited with Christ?
Yeah, I think maybe that could have been a part of his thought. Maybe he would have gotten there, but I think his initial reaction was sadness, right? Because I think he had a connection with John like no one else. Like John would have been the most similar person to him on earth. Like you think about the circumstances of their birth, the fact that they're like second cousins, they're related, right? Their mothers were pregnant together. John had a very special ministry. He prepared the way for Jesus. He was a weird, everyone thought he was a weird guy. Like there was no one on earth as similar to Jesus as John. So as far as Jesus' human existence on earth, like he had a really deep connection to John.
I also think
Would have been someone really special to
it's
him.
the reality.
Yes, I think he would have thought about like
Well done.
his eternity, like well done.
Right.
And that's was reflected when he talked about John.
But like, it's also the reality that like Jesus, like this is the path for him too. Like it also kicks in his ministry differently because now it's just Jesus
Right.
taking the torch. And also,
And that happened too. Jesus' ministry changed when John the Baptist got arrested.
Yep.
Jesus then took on a more
and then
public
the reality
ministry.
Is that, like, this is the future of this ministry. This is not like I'm going to go be king and reign and live a cushy life. Like, no, I'm going to suffer and die.
Yeah. So, Jesus tries to be alone. What happens?
People come.
They hear about it.
It says, hearing this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns.
I just feel like those are all extroverts, and this is a little introvert moment. Like, I just need a little moment alone. Like, yeah, it's a nice try.
Hunter, can you read Matthew 14:14 for us?
With Mike.
When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick.
Okay, so that's a pretty important verse, right? Because we set up, Jesus has experienced grief. Likely, at minimum, he wants to be alone because that's what he's going to do. We speculated on what maybe his emotions were, probably a range of emotions. But what is he goes to be alone and he sees what? Crowds of people. That's not what he's looking for. He's not looking for crowds. He's not like, let's go over here and this new ministry opportunity. He's going to be alone. The crowds hear this. They're so desperate for him. He's on a boat. They're like, where's he going to go? And they chase him down and they run around the lake and to be with him. But Jesus sees them. And there's another spot where he sees the people and he has compassion. He sees the city of Jerusalem later and he has compassion. Jesus is moved by seeing people in need, which is really special. When he sees people and sees their needs, he responds. He doesn't ignore them. He would have had every excuse right now to be like, go away. I just had a family member die. That one of the most important people in his life just died. I need some time alone. None of us would fault him for that. None of us would guilt him for that. I don't even think, unless the Lord is telling him to do otherwise, which maybe he did, that it wouldn't even be a sin. Like, just like, I need some time alone. Like, he deserved that, and he could have taken that, but he sees the crowds, has compassion on them, and heals their sick. So this is just like Jesus having human emotions, but also doing the Lord's will and loving people and being selfless and not just caring about himself, caring about others. And it's a great example for us.
Can I read the Mark part
Yes.
of that? It's very sweet. Okay. So if you
Oh,
guys have your
that's-
harmony on page 104, the second column at the top. But many who saw them leaving in the boat, in the boat, recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them.
Yeah.
So when Jesus landed and saw the large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So I just think there was like, it also shows us eagerness. They saw Jesus leave on this boat and they're like, oh, we can get there. And they started like telling everyone, and they're like probably running along the shore and they're running to the towns. And they are so excited to see Jesus land. And he's grieving and wants to be alone, but he has a moment of a decision. I think this is like a parenting thing when you're really sick of like your kids making noise and you decide to still like love them and make them dinner anyways. You really don't want to. It's like, okay, like I can do this. And I just think that, I mean, so you'll be there one day. He had compassion on them because, why? Because he knew they were lost and they needed him. So that was really cool. That's Mark.
Yeah, thank you. That's a fuller description. It's just so cool. Like, just take a look right now at all four Gospels and how they tell this story differently and add extra details. They're not in conflict with each other, but they're, one says, like Matthew says he healed their sick. Mark says he taught them many things.
Luke
says he healed those who needed healing and spoke to them about the kingdom of God. And John says he went on the mountainside and sat with his disciples. After he had...
And then he performed miracles with the sick.
On the sick. So like those are all different, but they're not contradictory to each other. Do you see how that is? Like one says he healed, that's true. One says he taught, that's true. He did both. So like you can see how things can be different, but not against each other, right? And that actually brings strength to the truth of the Gospels, as they're not exactly the same. This is just a reliability of the Bible thing. When you interview people, this is what police even talk about. If you interview people around a car accident and they all say the exact same thing, what do the police assume? That it's true? Or that it's actually untrue? If they all use the same phrases and the same words, they probably collaborated and like, let's tell the police that this car swerved here and did this and hit the brakes, and they're making it up. If Henry saw an accident and I saw an accident, we would see different things. Henry would have been looking here, I would have been looking here. Like there was a squirrel here, and I might not mention the squirrel or whatever. Because we would see different things, and that actually brings reliability and accuracy and honesty to the story. Is these two of them were there. Who was there?
Matthew and
Peter.
Two of the gospel writers.
Oh.
Matthew and John would have been there. Mark, we believe, is a mainly interview with Peter. So from his perspective, and Luke interviewed everyone he possibly could. So like those are the four perspectives of this event. Anyway, side note. What happens next is one of the biggest stories in the Bible, but I stuck it here because the context is so important. I bet you never knew that Jesus fed the 5,000. Who's heard that story before? Yes, that's another event.
It's a different time.
In the context of him grieving the death of John the Baptist. Like, if you don't read this chronologically, feeding the 5,000 is an independent story that's really cool. It's probably Jesus' largest scale miracle, like that he affects the most people, 5,000 people plus, that's 5,000 men, not counting the women and children, eat a meal together. So we're not going to get into the details as much. We're running out of time of the story. You probably know the story. Jesus is teaching. He's with this crowd. But all this happened in the context of Jesus trying to go be alone to grieve the death of John the Baptist. And the crowd show up. He has compassion on them because they need him. They have needs. And he shows up for them. So that's the context of the feeding of the 5,000. So you know the story. They're in a remote place. Why are they in a remote place? Because Jesus was trying to be alone. He didn't do this on purpose.
Across the lake, and they all ran.
So everyone followed him out into the wilderness without preparations, right? It's kind of their fault. He says to them, it's getting late. Send the crowds away. Then go to the villages and buy some food. The disciples say that.
Disciples, not Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus replied, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. So also think about the disciples have been on their own now doing ministry. They come to Jesus with the problem. He's like, you guys figure it out. You guys know how to do ministry. Like, he kind of puts the pressure back on them. I love that they've gone out and done ministry on their own, but now they're back with Jesus. So they're like, Jesus, help us solve this problem. We do the same thing, right? Like, our own kids do that. Like, they're out on their own, they're solving problems, they're living on their own at college or whatever. They come back home and like, can you do this for me? They kind of revert back to dependence, right? I think the disciples reverted back to dependence on Jesus to make decisions. And Jesus pushes back on that and says, you give them something to eat. You figure this out. And then they have more excuses. We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. Some Gospels talk about this being from a boy. Some kind of indicate that it was theirs. But regardless, all they had to start with was 5 loaves and 2 fish. Bring them here to me. He directed the people to sit down. He takes the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looking up towards heaven, gives thanks and broke them. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. Okay? So I want you to notice, when do you think the miracle happened here of multiplication of food?
I think it was when they were handing it out. I would just like read here every time.
Yeah. So I love that Jesus involved the disciples here in the miracle. Like, they would have had to, in faith, take whatever food they'd been given and start handing it out to a crowd of 5,000 people. If you only have 5 loaves and 2 fish, it's kind of hard to share, right? You're going to run out really soon. So you almost don't want to start handing it out. But I think the people in faith, maybe they saw it multiply there and were like, okay, here we go. But like, regardless, the disciples were involved in this miracle in faith, handing the food out, which is
I
pretty
have a
cool.
really weird observation from the Luke account. If
Yeah.
you are on page 105,
Yeah.
in the Luke halfway down, in verse 14, but he said to his disciples, have them sit down in groups of about 50 each. And I just had this weird moment, like this was like 10 years ago. It's like, God likes math and like order. And like, how did they know they had 5,000 people? Well, they were in groups of about 50. I don't know, just weird moment. It was like orderly.
It would have
Like,
made
they
them
had an
easier to
order-
count.
They had an orderly way of feeding these people. And I just thought it was like, that'll do something
How many
for some
groups
people's
of
brains.
50 make 5,000?
100.
100 groups.
So I
you
just
could've-
thought that was interesting and like a fun little like, it's like a little nugget for me.
I also like how, sorry.
Yeah, go Ben. Oh, Olivia.
Is this only counting the men, or is this?
It says that in one of the Gospels.
Yeah, you're right. So we think it's more.
Okay.
But the men didn't go alone. Ben had something to say.
Matthew has it, 5,000 men beside women and children. Yeah, Ben?
I just like how Mark actually puts it into terms that you can understand practically, and he says it would take a man 8 months' wages to make that much.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
8
you're right.
months' wages, right?
Say you make 30,000 a year, that's 20 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2/3
And it was
of
a
a
miracle,
year.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, now I see it in Mark too. It says groups of 150,
Yeah.
either hundreds or 50s.
Yep.
So I just was like, these little tidbits. I'm like, this just piques my interest.
Yeah, right.
But it also puts it in like doable terms that we can kind of comprehend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is again one of probably the largest scale miracles that Jesus did. I don't know for ranking miracles, but like as far as affecting the most people. And the context of all this was Jesus' grief, was his loss, was him wanting to be alone, and then this happened. So I do believe he was being submissive to the Lord's will in this, and God wanted this to happen and wanted this to play out this way. If Jesus had ignored the crowds and been like, no, go away, I'm going to go, he could have forced his way to be alone, found a cave or something, and told his disciples, like, hold the crowds back, I need to be alone. He could have done that, but he was obedient to the Lord even when he had excuses, even when he did not want to do this. He did it. So, what is his method? Jesus grieves a great loss. So write this stuff down. This is kind of my application points from this. Jesus grieves a great loss. He leaves to be alone, but has compassion on people and does the largest miracle recorded. So, God used this event and time in his life. I think it's teaching us some things. And use this whole circumstance in Jesus' life to result in a really cool, large miracle that would have impacted so many people. Can you imagine being one of the people that, like, did you hear that Jesus multiplied this food? And be like, yeah, I had some of it. I was there. I ate till I was full. We all did. Like, can you imagine, like, taking part in that miracle? Like, this is a large group of people that had a physical, tangible evidence of Jesus's power. Like maybe, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have video, they didn't like this would have been firsthand only. So, everybody probably would have heard, like, I heard somebody paralyzed got healed. Like, I heard about that too. And somebody else was like, no, I heard that wasn't true, or like, whatever. But now you have 5,000 men plus their families. So 5,000 families, we'll say, affected, had tangible evidence of Jesus' power. Full bellies. What an interesting thing for them to all have a personal, direct, physical experience with Jesus' power.
Okay,
So-
I want to add in. There are other times, though, when the crowds are there to see Jesus, and he's like, you're just here for another free meal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to teach you. So they also were there, so Jesus fed them physically, but his main goal was to feed them spiritually. And so he would see through them, and he would see what they were really there for. And it would just be like, oh, I want to go there because West Side has free burgers on Fridays. And Brian's like, we're going to West Side! Some people are just there for a free meal.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
Like all of you are here just for donuts.
That's right.
Okay, so why did Jesus do this way? Why did this happen this way? What was he modeling for us?
I have a fill in the blank, by the way.
Yes. Jesus sets aside his blank
It's not grief.
Feelings.
to serve the Father. Yes. I went broader than grief, because yes, Jesus was probably experiencing grief. But I put feelings down, because feelings so often get in the way of us obeying God.
When else does Jesus set aside his feelings to serve the Father?
When he gets crucified.
In the garden.
Gethsemane.
So,
He's like, if there's any other way, let me know.
I-
If not, your will be done.
I don't think we should deny that we have feelings or deny our feelings. We should acknowledge that we have feelings, but I also acknowledge that our feelings won't always lead us to the right place. Our feelings will deceive us. Our feelings are powerful. Our feelings are powerful. The things we want, the things we desire are very powerful forces in our lives, but sometimes we need to set them aside to do what is right. Our feelings will lead us astray. Our hearts are wicked. Our hearts and our desires they may align with God's will sometimes, but not always. So we can't always trust our feelings. If Jesus had just gone with his feelings, he wouldn't have done this.
Right, so if you've heard me say, you can do hard things, it's like, that might seem really hard and scary and overwhelming, but you can actually do it, right?
Yep.
So you have to push through.
Okay, the final thing for
There's
us.
so many blanks.
How do we apply this to us? Do we see the needs of...
Others, correct.
And see God.
Do we see the needs of others and serve as God?
Would.
Nope,
Once.
nope. Starts with a D.
I use it.
Desires. Desires.
Does?
D-I-R?
Directs. Ourselves.
Do we see the needs of others and serve as God directs, or only serve ourselves? Good job. So much time our feelings are going to lead us to serve ourselves, right? Who knows what you want the most? You, right? So we are going to serve our own feelings. We're going to go with what we desire more often than anything else. So we have to be careful with our feelings. All right. I have some more fun questions, but we're out of time.
We're always out of time. We never have time. We never do questions.
It's 5:49 and, yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Great job. Good talk.